Hello riders, this is Mark with riderresources.org. We're a nonprofit organization for motorcycle safety and awareness. We bring attention to distracted driving, also driving under the influence, and just basically keeping ourselves safe on the road. My buddy and I have challenged ourselves to do an Arctic adventure. We've been working on this for about a year. We're departing July 15th. From Atlanta, Georgia, going all the way up to Dead Horse in the Arctic Ocean. We're also highlighting and benefiting Motorcycle Relief Project, which is a veterans-based nonprofit in Colorado that raises funds for vets with PTSD. The funds will go to sponsoring riders to kind of reconnect for a week on a motorcycle. They'll be doing a combination of road riding and off-road riding and doing things like Pikes Peak, and then in the evening they kind of decompress and go through all the things that are concerning them as a vet with PTSD or even some physical injuries that kind of hinder them in life. The purpose of this first video is to talk about bike prep. This is a BMW GS. It's an 09, about 35,000 miles, and this is the bike that I'll be taking. Needless to say, you can take any bike. You can take small dual sport bikes all the way up to big Harleys. V-twin Indians, Gold Wings have been very successful as well, even on street tires. But I want to talk to you, regardless of what you ride, considerations you may want to do on your bike. The Dalton is going to be guaranteed for 828 miles, as is 414 miles north, and there's no return except going back south. Riders say that going up is a little bit intimidating, but once you spend the night in Prudhoe and kind of get your wits about you, going south is a lot less emotional. So what I've done on this bike, parts are very expensive, cosmetics are even more, in some cases varies bike to bike, but I've put a 5 mil clear film in various places. I got one on my windscreen, my fork tubes, my LED lights, and the forward-facing parts of these aluminum covers. I've also added a oil cooler guard that keeps rocks and debris from hurting the oil cooler. That's something you also want to keep clean by flushing water through it, as if it gets clogged up, you're going to have overheating problems on your bike. This bike also has a stone guard on the bottom and crash bars, which are pretty much standard equipment on a GS. But I've also got fresh brake pads. You want to make sure that your pads will run the entire duration of the trip. Pads can last 35,000 miles based on the weight of the bike and how you basically drive the bike. Tires, there's no way around it. There's not going to be a tire on this length of haul to make a round trip. So I've got 1,200 miles on what they call a Michelin Anarchy 3. These are 20% off-road and 80% highway. We've made provisions to have tires drop ship to Northwest Power Sports in Fairbanks. We're going to take a day break there and have them install the tires. It'll be a good chance for us to kind of recheck the bike from stem to stern. One of the things that I follow is MSF, Motorcycle Safety Foundation. I've got 80 hours of training with them. But they have T-clocks, which is an acronym for various parts of the bike to check. So that's tires, levers, fluids, chassis, all your lighting, all your horns, all need to be gone through. And that should be done on almost every pre-ride. Now for this ride, I strongly suggest on the chassis, which is holding your powertrain, your final drive, and all your accessories, make sure all those bolts are tight. I grew up with bumpers as a kid, and parts would either crack off or fall off because of bad fasteners. So I'm a big proponent of using Loctite or a thread locker. But go through everything, make sure everything is torqued. Crucial items like gear shifts and brake shifts, brake levers. If those fall off, you're pretty well screwed. But also make conscientious effort to look at throttle bodies, make sure your vacuum lines, electrical connections, and in this case, this is a CV clamp. Just make sure everything's nice and tight. If those happen to gasp air, the bike is going to run really crappy, and it's also going to introduce, dirt into the intake system. As I've been going through my motorcycle awareness nonprofit, a big thing in research that I've noticed is the more lighting you have, the better safe you are in heavy traffic and being visible. So I'm constantly adding lights. It's so important to be seen. I've had numerous cars not decide to make a turn in front of me because of my lighting. But if you make a true triangle out of your bike, make those lights look very large, and it makes you a little bit more formidable. And instead of being turned in front, people actually will yield to you. I've added a rear taillight assembly and light bar that further lights up with the depression of the brake. I've also added some additional lights to my panners or saddlebags. But since you're going to be on this bike for 3 to 4 weeks, it's so important to be comfortable. Add accessories that make your ride comfortable. I've added bar risers that kind of put the bars further forward and higher, and gives me a lot more riding stamina as I go forward. So as we move ahead with our future videos, we'll talk about packing. We'll actually load the bags, and we'll go through an itemized checklist of items to take. Again, this is going to be your lifeboat. We're going to have gear on it for cooking, gear on it for camping. We'll have a list of bike spares, tire repair. And the other thing we'll discuss is fuel range. This bike and many others will not be able to make the fuel stops between Coldfoot and Prudhoe and Fairbanks, so we'll have to bring auxiliary fuel. I'm going to take about an extra gallon and a half. And we'll just constantly monitor our range. So any side excursions you may have will put you at a fuel range, and you'll be hopefully using a sat phone for fuel service. So thanks for joining us today. Check us out on Facebook. That's riderresources.org. Look at our testimonials from these vets and donate freely, and we'll keep you posted for the entire 11,400 miles.